Now, first and foremost, I appreciate y'all for taking the time to view this content, my channel. You know, I'm not going to say, you know, what I'm going to say is this. I try my best to deliver content. None of this is scripted. And I appreciate you, especially when you like the channel, when you like, subscribe, you share, you leave a comment. It helps the channel grow for the most part. I don't speak algorithm, but I understand the algorithm speaks through the whole YouTube paradigm. So anything you offer by way of viewership, by way of smashing that like button, leaving a comment, all that stuff, is well appreciated. This is going to be a little bit different than crypto, this particular episode, and it's not going to be too long. It's just, real life talk, real life talk. So, it's interesting. I was called to do jury duty, right? And it's funny, not in a ha-ha, he-he way, comical way. It's weird, right? They're just the whole system and everything. Courthouses are dreadful places, okay? They just are. Dreadful. Like, wow. Whatever you think you believe in, you don't even have to believe in a higher power, right? You walk into those buildings, courthouse, and you feel like you're nobody. You feel like there is a higher power hovering over you, some type of, a higher power taking dominion over you, where you feel like you are minuscule and your fate is lying in the hands of others. No matter what courthouse you're walking into, the lowest of the courts to the highest, Supreme Court, whether it's family court or criminal court. Court is court. It's weird. It's just weird, man. Like the energy, the vibe. Even if things are in your favor, it's not a pleasant environment, right? Weird. So I'm sitting there and, waiting. It's like a pool of people, just a bunch of people just sitting there pissed off that they're even there. Even the people, the court staff, civilian, I guess, or plainclothes officers with guns on their waist, telling even the people, everyone who was there was saying, they didn't even want to be there. They're like, weird. That's the way you start your day, to say that you didn't even want to be there, just like everyone else doesn't want to be there. You as employees don't want to be there, so you already know they're setting the temperature, they're setting the atmosphere, right, of what your day is going to look like. Crazy. Anyway, so I'm sitting there waiting to be called. Eventually I get called after a long time. We're talking not one day, like days later. Like, okay, finally get called. Sitting in the courthouse, they go through the rigmarole. You're sitting in this room, then you go sit in another room, and it's you and a group of people, like 50 people. You're just being shuffled, left and right. Go wait out here. Wait for your name to be called. Sit down. Okay, get up, go to another room. Okay, wait for the court officer to tell you what to do. Listen, follow the person that's in front of you. This and that and this, all this. Finally, you get into this. You get into court. The attorneys, prosecutors and defendants, attorneys and the judge and the judge's staff, the officers and stenographer, court reporter, or whoever. Everybody's looking at you. So you're sitting there, they're testing people. They're not testing, but questioning, right? They're trying to pick jurors. And in my mind, I'm like, I'm just going to be who I am. They asked all of us to raise our hand and swear that we'll tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help us God. Okay, fine. No problem. Sitting down, all of a sudden we hear that this particular defendant, has these criminal charges against him, for having a firearm, and, was picked up a few years back. We're talking like 2020. 2020. And he's going through trial, like this wasn't grand jury, this was for a trial. So they're looking for jurors. And then they're asking the people, how would you feel about police officers testifying and all this kind of stuff? What has been your experience? Did you or a friend or a relative ever been a victim of a crime? And if so, how did that make you feel and all this kind of stuff? And you know me, I got in my bag. I'm not going to perjure myself. So I expressed myself candidly, very clearly, and basically told them, listen, I've had experiences. I know people family and friends who've, been subjected to the penal system. Not me, but I know, but I've also, in some instances, without going into too much detail, sought police assistance. And in my seeking assistance, unfortunately, the police dropped the ball and they didn't follow through. And so with that, it left a bad taste in my mouth for, law enforcement, because the results of them failing to help me and my family, I deal with the consequences to this day. And without going into detail, that's all I can say right now, and all I will say, frankly. And then they kept asking me, like the prosecution lawyers, they were interviewing the jurors, and they were asking me, like, do I think I can be impartial to the testimony of police officers, even though I went through what I went through? Can I find it in myself to be impartial? And I told them, no, flat out, I'm going to be biased. I'm not going to be impartial. So the prosecution sat down. The defendant lawyer gets up and starts asking me, ask other people, and then finally asked me. That he didn't understand if I can go into detail to explain what happened with my experience with, what I described that caused me to feel, untrustworthy of officers right now. And I did. And then he said, well, you still don't believe that you can, be objective or impartial. And I said, listen, again, I'm living with the repercussions of them dropping the ball. They failed us. They were supposed to serve and protect, they did not do in this instance. And that's just one example. It's my experience that I went through that caused me to just still continue, like the effects of what took place, I live with to this day. And it's been years. And don't get me wrong, it's not something that's debilitating, but it's something that I don't forget. And it didn't just affect me, it affected my family. And he left me alone. Needless to say, I, along with other people who were in that pool, that jury pool, we completed our duty for the day, and they let us go, because that's a case that, for me, I wasn't going to be a good fit for them, right? Because they want some, impartial and fair as fair can be. And my thing is, I had to sit back and think too, because, those questions is something that I didn't think about, that I thought that I was kind of past a situation. I thought I was past the situation that I went through, and I realized, wow, I did something in order to keep my family safe, I had to do something, and that's what I did. And but when you're in the moment, sometimes you don't think, you just react. And I had to react back then in a way to keep my family safe, and I don't regret reacting the way I did because we flourished since. And it made me look at the system in a certain way and say, you see, we're dealing with human beings here. And in life, there's so many flaws because people are flawed. We're fallible. We're not infallible. Like, for example, for what I do for a living, is part of a system that's also flawed. It's broken. Broken system. Yes, it works, but a lot of things fall through the cracks and people suffer. And it just lets me know that, wow, like sometimes in life, when you think things are in place to help you, to assist you, and you try to utilize it, certain systems that are supposed to be available to help us when we are in need, sometimes they fail us. They do the exact opposite than what they're supposed to do. And it's just what it is. This is not a shade on the entire law enforcement industry. I'm not saying that. But for this particular instance, it didn't work out. And others can attest in their own way of how the systems failed them. I don't live with that for the rest of my life and say all police officers, all law enforcement are bad people. No. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that there was something happened where there was a disconnect, where a service wasn't followed through completely to at least bring closure, right? Which I thought was very odd. This is why I had to respond in a certain way back then. That I'm not going to say, because the internet is a special place that I don't really trust wholeheartedly either. That's why I say certain things the way I say it. And I just ask my audience to pick up what I'm putting down, to use for their own, as they see fit, for your own benefit or lack of, or whatever, entertainment, if you will. Although it'll be sorted in a way. This is macabre. It's a little dark, but I didn't give the details to show you how dark it was. And that was my experience with the jury stuff. It's weird. I don't know. Well, guys, gals, listen. That's the end of my, description of what took place. And if you have any thoughts, similar or different, leave a comment. I'm interested to hear what you have to say. All right? I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Well, before I leave, this is why I gotta explain something too before I end it, because something just came up. As a man, part of the reason why I take the stance that I do take in general with certain things is because of my role as I understand it, as a man, as a husband, as a father, as a caregiver, as a protector. That's my role. A lot of people who purport to be men won't ever understand what that is, what that role is, because they don't assume the responsibilities that come with being a leader, the head of your household. Again, being the provider, being the protector of your household. They don't know what that is. And that's why I try to teach young men. I try to teach my son. I try to teach young men certain things so that they don't fall by the wayside. They don't fall through the cracks. They don't fail themselves. I try to teach them how to do things so that they could be responsible and hold themselves accountable for their actions. Because this is something that is grossly lacking in society nowadays. There will be instances where we do need help. And I'm fortunate that these systems are available, whatever, healthcare systems, emergency systems. We need the help when occurrences arise, when there are crises that take place. Of course. But when those things take place, you as a responsible human being, as a responsible man, will know how to act accordingly when certain things arise. Should certain systems fail you? That's my point. And with that, I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.